Hello, welcome back. Boxing this week. We are live this week. Last week, actually not our problem, but it was something went wrong. But either way, we are live Thursday. We're back. Paolo, how are you?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
Very good, very good. Boxing's an interesting week. A lot of news. Not too much fights. There's quite a lot to talk about fight-wise as well. We'll go straight to the weekly roundup. Not too many smaller topics we want to talk about, but looks like Joshua versus Wilder is now on the cards again, on the table again.
Yeah.
But it's based on Wilder coming back next week and actually looking good, which I doubt, but he might do because he's in there with a bit of a nobody, with all respect. Other than that, is there much in the smaller news? Not really. I mean, let's go straight.
Just a little mention on Wilder and Joshua, quick to feel that.
Yeah.
I do think that is going to be the most one-sided fight I think we watch on TV.
Yeah, Joshua's going to hurt him.
Joshua, there is absolutely, in my opinion, going off the because we could talk. Let's just mention it for a minute. We can talk about how Joshua got knocked out by Dubois, who's a heavy hitter, one of the hardest hitters in the division, young champion. And we could talk about him losing to the pound for pound heavyweight champion, unified cruiserweight champion, depends on where you put him on a pound for pound. And then we talk about the fact that he had a loss against Ruiz and avenged it. Yeah. Off the basis of those 3 fights, people are saying he's done. Yeah. Which is mental, by the way, because if we really want to go off that, the one thing that Joshua has that Wilder doesn't have is boxing ability to a higher level. There is a level of boxing ability Wilder has, but for me, it's very basic. Relies heavily on his bomber of a hand, which is obviously if he catches you with it, it would do damage.
Yeah.
But
we've not seen that in years. That's the problem.
There's nothing else that Malik Scott is his current coach, I think, unless he's changed.
No, still changed.
But he doesn't change anything. He doesn't do anything new in his fights. It's the same thing. That's not to blame on Malik Scott, because I actually think fundamentals he's a good coach. But I think there's only so much you can teach an old dog.
Yeah.
And you can't teach what's the saying. You can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Yeah. Joshua cleans him out. I don't even think we're going to see that fight, if I'm honest, because Joshua's still looking at Fury and then potentially world titles.
Yeah.
He's still amongst that level. Wilder is fighting in a stadium that I believe is not sold out yet. Wilder's struggling. He's got to come back and actually show something, but I don't think he will. It's very much like the Hellenius fight that he had a few years ago. We'll talk about first. Let's talk about the fights that have happened. Richardson Hitchins beat Kambosos Jr. pretty convincingly. There wasn't anything in it. I think Kambosos Jr. has had a lot of hate over the last week or so. Very undeserved hate as well, because I think when you actually look at fighters these days, a lot of criticism comes from, they avoid each other, they're not fighting the best. Kambosos Jr. has got in there with every single fighter he could. I don't think that guy's ever turned down a fight.
No.
So I have a lot of respect for him.
It's
probably time to end it.
Kambosos Jr. can't be disrespected because of what he's done in boxing, right?
Yeah.
So understand this, yeah? The guy is not afraid to fight anyone. Do you know what the problem is with boxing fans, yeah? A fighter gets 2 losses and they're done. Like, as in they can't return, they can't compete anymore, they're gone, this is gone, that is gone, that is gone. But really, you've got no fucking clue.
Yeah.
Let's be brutally honest with you, because there's plenty of fighters out there who can lose 2 or 3 times and go on and win. In some arguments, titles. Yeah.
Yeah.
If we went off that basis, no one would ever have seen the rise of Klitschko and what he done, because earlier on in Klitschko's career, he had a few bumpy roads, a few bumpy fights, then went on to dominate the heavyweight division for X amount of years. Whatever you think of the heavyweight division at the time, but to dominate the heavyweight division the way he did, Yeah, and it's an achievement, right? So for me, I think people need to stop with this thing about if he loses or if Kambosos loses now, he's done. I feel like if it's in his body to carry on fighting, the problem is when you're fighting at high level bouts, Kambosos is fighting at a world level. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's fighting at a world level. There is a risk of you losing the fight. It doesn't necessarily mean you're shot to bits because a lot of Europeans or European fighters or fighters below world level are not beating Kambosos Jr. That's a fact.
Yeah.
So if he was done, you know, the counter argument to it is you take someone like Josh Taylor. Josh Taylor's lost at world level. He's now lost at arguably European level.
Yeah.
He's knocked out. Kambosos Jr.'s fought a guy who potentially could go on and fight Haney. Potentially, depending on how that fight goes, he might beat him, he might not. Could become a world champion. No disrespect to Esselman, but age and stuff comes into it. He's got a harder time of trying to achieve to become a world champion, but what he's done is remarkable.
Yeah.
So I think people calling maybe for him to retire is a bit harsh. I think people that think fighters after they lose should retire are mad. Floyd hasn't been fighting for I don't know how long, so I think the problem is too many people look at fighters like that and go, well, they haven't lost. So, do you know what I mean? Because if Terence Crawford loses against Canelo, and we say Terence is done, so
no, exactly, that's a good point.
This is what I'm saying to you. Like 3 weeks before, he's one of the best boxers of all time. After he fights Canelo, if he loses, he's done. How do you go from being 3 weeks ago the best boxer? You get a defeat, fair enough, depending on how it's done.
Yeah.
And then you're done. Like your body can't do it anymore. All of this, all of that. Like, that don't change in 6 weeks. Do you get it?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my opinion on it.
No, I kind of agree. I don't. If Kambosos Jr. wants to go again, why not? He's only fighting at world level. We've seen him fight. What was it, Wiley, on his first Matchroom card, and he won fairly convincing. It was maybe a little bit harder than he thought it would be, but Wiley was maybe a bit better. But he's only lost to Lomachenko, Haney, and now Richardson Hitchins. That's 3 world champions. Lomachenko's Hall of Fame. Haney could quite easily end up being Hall of Fame, and Hitchins is seemingly a lot better than I think I gave him credit for. He's a top level fighter.
Yeah.
He was really. It was very impressive what he did against Kambosos. Even whether or not you're, I know a lot of people think Kambosos got very lucky against Teofimo Lopez. I don't believe that's even a thing in boxing, really. You train for things, you don't get lucky. And he beat a very good Teofimo Lopez, and he beat him badly. Kambosos was just not good enough against Haney and Lomachenko, a different level. I don't know. Look, for me, I'm like, I think he's a legend, not in terms of he's not Hall of Fame legend, nothing like that, but he's a legend in his own right. If Kambosos calls it a day, which he might have done, he put a bit of a paragraph out on Instagram and Twitter and all that, and it was kind of, he didn't say that he's retired, but it kind of felt like that's maybe where he's going. I don't know what fights are even really out there for him, if I'm honest. That's the other thing.
Do you know what it is? Yeah, the only person realistically who can make the decision on his retirement is himself.
Yeah.
Because on the other hand, if he is going to retire, he's competed at the top level for X amount of time, done so many training camps a year. For himself, he might just want to step back, spend time with the family, do what he needs to do. And that might be it for him. He's made a lot of money. Bearing in mind, when he won, people are forgetting, he was undisputed.
Yeah.
He was undisputed champion, yeah? So the amount of money he's probably generated for his family, he's created long-term wealth.
That one fight has changed. Like, he's had a near perfect career. When you think about if you go through that, what does a boxer want out of their career? He's done an underdog story where he beat Teofimo and he beat him bad. He's then gone and done two homecoming fights and sold stadiums out. All right, he lost both, but he still sold them out. So he's made a shitload of money. He's then done Lomachenko, where he's fought against potentially one of the greats, one of the best evers, especially at that time. He came short, and he's fought Hitchins, who potentially we're talking about someone who could end up being seen as a very high level, but we'll have to wait and see. But for Kambosos, I'm like, whatever he decides to do, I'm going to support. I don't think he's washed. He's not one of these guys that, like, I don't want to keep bringing him up, but like Josh Taylor, where I think he really should consider retirement.
Yeah, because he's took maybe a couple steps back.
I think for Taylor, it's a long road back to that level. Kambosos shows that he still is at that level, maybe just a little short now. But whatever. Hitchins. What next? I mean, first of all, is it with Eddie Hearn?
Devin Haney, man. You
want him versus Devin Haney?
Yep. He's already been in the gym calling his dad.
Yeah.
His exact words were, fuck Devin Haney and fuck his dad. Obviously, I will, if we clip that, I will overdo it with the audio of him saying it. But those were his words. Those were his words. So,
does he beat Devin Haney?
Oh, I think you've got to challenge yourself, innit?
I agree with that.
The thing is, he wants to fight at 140.
That's the thing that's the reason I don't think that'll happen.
Yeah.
Haney can't come back down, I don't think. It doesn't make sense.
Do you know what, though? I just need to see. I need to see somebody beat Devin Haney. I'll be real with you.
Really?
I've had enough of his dad.
We have this conversation a lot. I'm a Devin Haney fan. I'm not a massive Bill Haney fan.
I think Devin Haney's a great boxer. I think his dad's a great waffler.
100%. 100%.
And that's about as far as it goes, to be honest with you. I'll be brutally honest with you, yeah. I just need to. Do you know what it is? Yeah. Do you know what that duo reminds me of? It reminds me of like a good Monday Night Raw WWF episode or WWE, where the general manager's just waffling in the ring and there's no fights happening. That is the WWE. Them two. When to be fair to Devin Haney though. To be fair to Devin Haney, he's a great boxer, but I don't even know what's next for him, to be honest with you. Ryan Garcia fight's gone out the window.
Yeah, I think.
So
the Teofimo Lopez fight is the one that makes sense, but
Tio and Haney makes sense, but for that reason, I don't think Hitchins will get his shot, and plus he's probably gonna have to move up in weight. I mean, you could do a fight with Gervonta Davis.
Could try it, yeah. Well, Davis is still sat at 130. I'm not being funny. I think Hitchins could clear the division.
Yeah.
140 is not that strong.
No.
Tio is still there as a champion, but Tio wants to move up. So he's just being difficult about it because he wants to drain Haney. Subriel Matias is fighting for a world title again, but Matias is very beatable. I mean, Liam Paro did it. He got beaten early on in his career as well. I can't remember by who. And then you're talking like Adam Azim, Dalton Smith. Those are the kind of guys coming up that will get their title shot soon. There's no reason Hitchins can't take advantage of it and clear the division, especially now that Boots is up to 154. Because with Boots gone, welterweight has just become a very easy division for Haney's and Lopez's to move into.
Yeah.
It's a shame. I wanted to see Boots versus Haney. I think that's a very long night for Haney.
Boots v Haney makes sense.
But it's a great fight. But I don't think we're going to see that anymore. Boots has gone up. Conor Benn versus Devin Haney kind of makes sense.
Conor Ben v Devin Haney, yeah.
Well, that's right.
Conor Ben v.
Anyone.
Well, Conor Ben's meant to be fighting for a title, but we got Grandad P fighting for one. President,
Yeah.
I don't know if he's president, but he's mayor of, I'm sure, the Philippines.
Yeah.
He's a political figure now, but apparently he's a boxer again. That's really mind-boggling me, because he's held the WBC have held a title and just holding it hostage for that shit. To be honest with you, I don't know. It's a bit. Do you know what it is? Because of the way the titles are situated, it's a bit of a mess, that division. I'll be real with you.
Definitely. But I mean, the issue is so obviously Boots is looking at it and going, the WBC is a joke. What's the point in waiting for Barrios?
Yeah,
because Conor Ben is next in line, and Conor Ben still hasn't got a date. They're talking September 20th for Ben Eubank Jr. But there's issues with that as well.
What's mad is about that, Ben is in front. So Ben deservedly got a mandatory spot, in my opinion. Yeah. But how do you not? In my opinion, the way that the belts fall, how's Boots not in front of Ben for a title shot against Barrios?
Yeah. I don't even have an answer for that.
But again, and I'm not discrediting Ben. Because obviously, but when you look at the facts and figures of it, Ben hasn't fought for a year, then come back and fought at a catch weight against Eubank. Obviously, lost, doesn't affect his ranking at all.
Yeah.
But in the last year and a half, he's had one fight at catch weight. So at the same time, Boots has fought more than Ben. How has Ben not got a title shot? How has Boots not got a title shot over Ben? Pacquiao hasn't fought for 6 years, and he's got a title shot over Ben and Boots.
Yeah.
WBC are fucked. You know that. Yeah.
I
Just abolish WBC. Just get rid of them.
Yeah.
Get rid of them.
I mean, I don't even have an answer for that because I just don't know.
I don't even think
it doesn't make sense. But it's a money thing.
Yeah, go on.
It's just wrong.
Ben's
going to get a shot. He will get a shot, and that's the good thing is that WBC, whilst they're doing their stuff, we saw a welterweight fight today where Brian Norman Jr. fought. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but at the very least, they have some fights going that should be happening in the welterweight division. But I think the welterweight division is quite weak. I can see Catterall's probably got his best chance of picking up a title if he gets past Harlem Eubank.
Yeah.
Conor Ben, we still have no idea how good Conor Ben is because we don't know how good Eubank was on that night and we don't know how weight drained he was. We don't know how good. But from what we're seeing, I'm kind of getting back on the hype train of Conor Ben and going, that's his natural weight. That is one of the most underappreciated aspects of boxing is a fighter at their natural weight, not cutting, not doing all of this. That's Gervonta Davis is somewhat getting a career off of that, and the fact he hits like a truck. But the fact Davis won't move up because Davis at 130, that's his perfect weight. If Conor Ben could do the same at 147, Devin Haney could probably go up again. Jaron Ennis no longer 147 doesn't work. Brian Norman Jr. looks comfortable at welterweight, but he also looks massive. Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's not long before we start seeing him with the really sunk eyes when he's doing the weigh-ins. Andy Hiroka is... I haven't watched enough of him, to be honest, but he looks very good. He looked good against Barrios. It's exciting. The issue I've got is I want to see the fights now, and I think we're going to miss out on some great ones just because fighters are moving divisions too quickly.
Agreed.
Or because they're in a different division like Lopez and Haney, they're saying, oh, we can't fight, we're in a different division. You have to come down or you have to come up.
Yeah.
We know that Lopez could go up and he should go up. I just don't think he really wants that fight. But that's I also, to be fair, I just don't like Teofimo Lopez, so that doesn't help. But
it's a bit of a mind boggle, to be honest, at that weight. So, like you said, I want to see the fights now. We're not going to see them now, and that's what's pissing me off.
Yeah.
So to end that.
Let's talk about, we're talking about Conor Benn. Let's talk about Eubank Jr. The Sauna drama.
Oh God.
For context, for anyone that doesn't know, Eubank's got to have some form of like hearing aspect where he stands in front of a judge for the British Boxing Board of Control and explains why he used a sauna to cut weight. What are they going to do? Like,
British Board of Boxing Control is run by old men, who are not up to date with probably the way that fighters cut weight, regardless of. And I think their issue is it's safe for the fighter, But there are sports sciences in place which is advanced, because we moved away from black and white TV now, So we're now into the era of color, 4K, HD. Catch up, guys. Excuse my hay fever. But what I'm trying to say is, like Eubank, there's new ways of cutting weight. He documented it. Like Eddie Hearn said, some of it's probably going to come back to bite him in the arse. But really, there's not really much they can do. That is a meaningless meeting, to be honest with you. Like, if they would have done a hearing about him throwing an egg at Ben, that would have made more sense. Realistically, I think they're just correct. Like, like when some companies, they have a head office somewhere, and they invite everyone. Excuse me, because my eyes are burning. They have a head office somewhere, and they invite everyone up to the meeting, and you learn nothing from that meeting.
Yeah.
Or you felt like I could have done this over Teams. That's what this feels like. This feels like a Teams meeting, but somebody said, I want it here because I want to look important. Like the bottom line of it.
Yeah.
In theory, it's not really big news. A lot of boxing fans will look at this and go, well, you said to Conor Benn, because they don't understand it, which is fair enough. He done this and he done that. But look how you've cut weight and it's dodgy. Like, it's not what you think it is, just to clarify to people.
Yeah.
They're more concerned with the safety of Eubank Jr. in the way that he's cut weight and what risk it puts his body at. But he's got guys around him that pay him enough, that he pays enough to advise him, who I'm sure are more qualified than the judge that's going to be standing in front of him, telling him off for losing weight in a sauna. So really and truly, it comes down to that at the end of the day. Conor, tell me what you think.
I agree. The only thing I would say, the only reason I think this is actually news worth talking about.
I'm just putting water in my eyes.
The only reason I think this is worth really talking about is because we know what's going to happen. He's going to stand in front of a court. He's going to tell them he's done this for every single fight. He didn't realise it was in the rules, but it is completely safe. And then they'll say, don't do it again, blah, blah, blah. And then that's that. I think this affects the rematch. Saunas are really good for cutting weight. That's why they're not allowed. It's because you can cut a stupid amount in a sauna. This might affect. Eubank will then have the ability to say, well, if I can't use a sauna for the next fight, I can't make the agreed weight. If I can't make the agreed weight, we need to change it. Let's move it up further. And in which case, the fight shouldn't happen anyway.
In Eubank's favour.
Yeah, I think it does, because look, he might get fined, but they can't really justify fining him anyway, because he did the video of him weight cutting came out before the fight. If they cared enough about it and cared about his safety enough, they would have said no to the fight.
Yeah.
But they didn't do that this time. They didn't do that last time when they knew Conor Benn had something in his system. So they don't really care. That's the issue that I've got with it all. Is they like to pretend they care, but really they will charge you $500,000 for throwing an egg at somebody.
A lot of these boards, because I want to know what they do with $500,000. Because when we're actually speaking on the subject, Nick Blackwell, is it Nick Blackwell?
Is he the boxer that had to stop because of brain injuries? Yeah.
Yes. Raised a very good point. Now, there was a post going round about the British Board of Boxing Control a while ago, and it was about aftercare for ex-professional boxers and what they give. Now, Nick Black was obviously had one of a horrific injury in boxing that, thank God, and thank everyone that he's still here from, and he looks like he's recovered to an extent and he's able to live his life. Can't say the same for other people, but Nick Black, he was grateful enough, but he went through his hardship. This was on the back of actually a Eubank fight where he suffered basically life-lasting brain injuries. Yeah. He's changed the way he probably moves, changed the way he acts. He can't box again. Probably has affected his day-to-day. But they were talking about after fights. Now, what's mad is that egg slap raised a very good point at the time. What do they do with the money? Because in one breath, you've got all these ex-pros who used to box and now no one cares about them. The same way you have an ex-professional footballers association for mental health. And we're talking about Men's Mental Health Month, I think is a very good point to raise. Yeah. Black will come out and said that I think no one's contacted him since he's retired. Like no one from the boxing board has contacted him since he's retired. Now you would like to think a lot of these fighters that fight for the British board, that pay their fees and do all of this to them every year, you would like to think with the money that they get, they give back to the boxing community in some sense, and the fighters and the guys that aren't able to fight anymore, because boxing is a sport. Not everybody earns millions and millions of pounds. Some guys are still working. Josh Padley is a prime example. Going into that fight with Josh Padley, going into the fight with Shakur, he was an electrician. He left his van at Heathrow Airport to get a flight to Saudi to fight on the Riyadh card to fight Shakur. After that fight, he earned his money, changed his life. But prior to that, he's fighting at a British level, fighting on a Riyadh card before, and he was an electrician. So a lot of these guys don't earn a lot from boxing, is my point. And what I'm trying to get at is, these boards and the way that they act and the way that they operate has got to change, because there's not enough probably care there. And I'm sure I could ask 10 ex-pros if they've had even a phone call. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But they don't pay for a liaison officer to call out to these guys to see how they're doing or nothing like that. It's just very I think the British Board of Boxing Control is as corrupt as the WBC.
100%, maybe more. The WBC at the very least contribute a world title and therefore selling for the fighters. What do the British Boxing Board of Control do other than take money and then facilitate fights? But they're not even doing that properly, because we've seen, well, for what we're talking about right now, the Eubank Jr. Sauna thing. The reason you're not allowed to use a sauna is for your own safety. But they clearly don't care enough to call off one of the biggest fights in the year. I know it's not that simple, but it kind of should be. Yeah. If you're the governing body. There's sort of repeated incidents of that, though. We also have to look at it from a point of besides where's the money going, and we're looking at the big amounts of money because we see that in the news, but they take a percentage of every event. Yeah. Now, I don't believe for a second that just covers the basic fees of licensing and all the rest of it. There's going to be more. Where does that go? There's no transparency, and it's a big issue with boxing, because I think when people look at boxing from an outsider's perspective, where they don't look in, they judge boxing very quickly, because at the end of the day, it's two people getting in the ring and hurting each other, and that's what it is. It's a brutal sport, but it means that everything else needs to be as clean as possible.
I'm still here. What's it? Go on, carry on.
That's right. Everything outside of the ring should be the least corrupt sport in the world, to make sure the two people inside the ring are treated fairly, because there's no sport in the world other than combat sports where two people can go in the ring and have a great fight, and then the person that should win doesn't because of some external politics. Any other sport, that should not happen in a sport where they're risking their lives.
Boxing is one of the most dangerous, and I think Daniel Cormier, the UFC star, was actually saying this. Daniel Cormier is an ex-UFC heavyweight champion. People would have known him for his run as a heavyweight champion in Ultimate Fighting Championships, but also for his rivalry with John Jones, which everyone who is into combat sports will know. He now commentates, does his own podcast. He actually turned around and said that he would argue that in terms of danger, boxing is more dangerous injury-wise in the sense of long-lasting injuries. Obviously, in the UFC, you can snap your leg. That is mad. So I would argue in that sense that UFC is more dangerous. But I think the point he was trying to make was, he goes, when you're knocked down in the UFC, as soon as they think you're out of it, the fight stops. There's no count. You don't get up. The fight's done. The danger with boxing is you get knocked down, you have a 10 count, you get back up. The ref looks into your eyes. You're all right to carry on. There's concussion. Yeah. So you're now fighting with concussion. So you go out again, get knocked down again. If the ref doesn't stop it at that point and you've got concussion, but in the ref's eyes, dependent on the fight, you look at the fighter's eyes. Now he can go again. Goes out again. He's still got concussion. So it's that it's constant damage to your head not being stopped, and then taking more damage whilst you've got potentially bleeds or whatever it may be. I think there's more accidents in boxing than there is in UFC, just because of how careful the UFC are. And by accidents, I don't mean injuries, because people do get injured in UFC, but I mean fatal accidents.
Yeah.
And that's even in a sport that was riddled with roids at one point, by the way, as well. Like, I'm sure there's been fatalities in the UFC, but as of recent, I don't see many like I do in boxing.
The UFC as a whole has never had a fatality. That's one of the things they always say. That in no scenarios anyone died in the octagon or in like a set amount of time after or whatever. Obviously, UFC fighters have died naturally, and their lives have probably shortened because you're getting kicked in the head. But no, you're right. But this is why there needs to be protecting. I've just searched it up. So British Boxing Board of Control don't take anything from the boxer's purse, but that's to be expected. They shouldn't. But they'll get, besides you have to pay for all the licenses, it can be like £1,000 just to get your pro license.
Yeah.
And that doesn't guarantee you pass. I mean, that is the way it should be, but still you're paying £1,000 just up front. But they will benefit from purse bids for title fights. So if there's a title fight, promoters bid for the right to stage the event. And part of that bid goes towards the British Boxing Board of Control. Now, an element of that is absolutely fine because you're paying for your refs, your judges, all the rest of it. We spoke about that. But there is a limit. And the big issue is when we come and talk about all these fines for various things. Not saying that maybe the fighters shouldn't be fined. It's not a good look for Eubank to hit Conor Benn with an egg.
No. But I don't accept it. I understand why people would have been annoyed by it, but I also understand what the commercial value that actually done. So
that's
you look
the
at
other
it from
side.
2 points of view.
Yeah, there's two sides, and also we've heard Conor Benn speak about it. When he talks about it now, he's like, "Well, you sold the fight really well with that." He obviously didn't like getting hit with an egg, but how many impressions do you think that got?
Yeah,
tens of millions.
Yeah,
minimum. So from that, you have to look at it from both sides. This is the thing about them being outdated. There's also, I mean, it's a difficult one, but they just seem to come up with a number and then boom, and then we have no idea where that goes. That could be that money could be a fine that goes towards supporting boxing gyms are dying across the UK. They can't sustain themselves. They actually can't. If you go to your local boxing gym right now, unless you are going to one where you're like one of these ones that's not really a boxing gym and you're paying monthly and you're having boxercise and all this stuff. But if you go to a proper boxing gym at the moment, anywhere in the UK, I guarantee you, they're struggling a little bit. Because for all the boxings that are high, there's not a lot of money in it at grassroots.
See,
that's where the money should be going.
The argument with the British Boxing Board of Control I have with that is obviously amateur boxing, which is overseen by England Boxing, England Boxing does provide funding and support to affiliated amateur boxing clubs through various means, grants, community projects. The British Board of Boxing Control's role is to regulate professional boxing in the UK and ensures the safety and well-being of professional boxers. So they don't directly donate to boxing gyms. What's interesting here is it says it does have a charitable trust that provides assistance to former boxers and others involved in boxing who may be in need. However, former boxers who come out recently, who have come out on the worst end but are here to tell the tale, have been told that the British Board of Boxing Control doesn't contact them. So there's two sides to it. I don't take what I just read as they donate. I'm not that guy. You're talking.
No, I need proof.
You're talking to somebody who thought that the pyramid was built by aliens. So I am a deep thinker, Connor. Yeah. I'm not just going to take because you put it on your website. It's gospel. Yeah, I'm going to go off the fact of what pro boxers have come out and said, ex-pro boxers, sorry, that they're not getting this care. I've been to a few British Board of Boxing Control events. They do charitable events.
Yeah.
But they're not directly funded by the British Board of Boxing Control. They're like a ex-fighters association. So I've been to a couple of those, but I believe they're not. There's people that go to them that are involved with the board, but they don't directly fund to that. So that's all self-raising. Yeah, they could be doing a bit more in the boxing community, so maybe they need to fix up a bit. That's the short of it, really, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. I've got the whole. They're not England Boxing handles the amateur side, all that stuff. I think that's a load of shit. You're the British Boxing Board of Control. If you're getting that amount of money in over a fine, unless you can justify where that's going in your own company, but I don't see how they can, then it should be going to grassroots or to I don't even know, helping out young promoters or like new promoters do their shows and saying, look, you're covered because Eubank Jr. fucked up. But look, anyway, the point is the Sauna stuff will come to nothing. It might have an effect on the rematch. That's really the only reason I wanted to speak on it too much. And the fact British Boxing Board of Control are outdated. Now, earlier today, some of you may have watched it. You have likely seen the clips if you've been anywhere on sort of boxing online. Brian Norman Jr. Went to Japan as the world champion and just destroyed Sasaki. Put him down twice in round one. Sasaki kind of came out with a bit more fire than maybe, I don't know. Sasaki did what he could, but not good enough. And then Norman Jr. round 5, cold one-punch knockout. I think it's fair to say that's knockout of the year so far. I think. Only ones that are coming to mind immediately are Dave Allen, Johnny Fisher. That was huge. That was a massive.
Yeah.
Maybe in the heavy. There's not been too many big heavyweight knockouts, I don't think, in terms of clean punches. But Norman Jr. did his job, and I think has put himself on a bit of a stage now. And the same day where Boots is, or the same week where Boots is moving up, Norman Jr. is kind of saying, "Look, I'm a young American. You can get behind, and I've got that power." And he's cleaned him out. Sasaki, not a walkover either, by the way. Just the level was very different. So what I want to see now is, I don't know, WBO champion versus WBC champion. That makes sense. Except WBC champion's fighting a 60-year-old, well, not 60, but fighting Pacquiao. That's where the issues come from.
I'm tired of these title boards. Just get rid of them.
Yeah.
Put some younger people in charge who have got colour TVs.
Yeah.
Because the geezers are that old. I just think they're out of touch.
Yeah.
With just now, they're out of touch with everything. Yeah, and they're the ones who are killing boxing.
True. But we're going to see what they're going to do here, because this will be a big decision. Jaime Munguia's B sample came back as positive. Now, we had Louis, who was a boxing coach, works at DFC. DFC 9 got announced recently, by the way, so go check that out. But Louis was telling us about B samples. It is just the A sample split. Yeah. It's the same piss, splits twice. It's just to get rid of human error. B sample comes back positive for the exact same thing. Jaime Munguia looks very guilty right now. We'll see what they do about that. that should be a 2-year ban minimum.
Yeah, Louis, for context as well, as long as being a matchmaker for DFC, go and check them out. Go and check us out. Official DFC _ on Instagram. Alongside that, he's an England boxing accredited coach. He's also, in terms of their gym are England boxing accredited, and Louis coaches both amateurs and professionals. So he is a very sustainable and reliable source, considering that he took one of his fighters up to spar Conor Benn. I know that clip done well online, but that is who he was talking to, somebody who's in it and understands it, and understands the drug testing side of things. He did actually say if Munguia didn't agree to have his B sample tested and just took his A, he probably would have got a shorter ban, to be brutally honest with you. However, the B sample is the same as the A sample. It's the same pot of piss, basically. So what he to summarize, an A sample and a B sample is your piss. The A sample and B sample are taken for the same piss, but 2 different pots. So you test the first one, that one comes back high or whatever they find. Do you want to do the other one, or go and do the other one? The other one's going to be the same, right?
Yeah. 99% of the time it's the same thing.
It doesn't match. Then you've got even bigger issues because they're looking at it going, what?
Yeah, that's where you get the whole human error, weird under the carpet stuff. But
Munguía should be banned for 2 years. Canelo should be extra tested leading up to his fight with Crawford. And to be brutally honest with you, because it wouldn't be the first time that he's failed a drugs test, blamed it on a well done steak. But this ain't looking good for Munguia's coach. You've got four fighters from the same gym. And to clarify again from what Louis said, it's not always down to the trainer, but it is the trainer's responsibility at the same time to know what your fighter's eating, drinking, what he's shitting, what he's pissing out. Like, that is the fighter's responsibility. That's what you pay the coaches for, right? In a sense. He's had 4 fighters test positive from the same gym, and I believe 3 of them tested positive for the same thing, if I'm not wrong.
Two for the same thing. So
2 for the same thing. So
Cesar, Chavez Jr. and Valdez both for a weight cutting.
So the coach should be investigated the same way the fighters have been investigated.
Yeah.
And a minimum of a 2-year ban should be given to Munguia. And he's got no one to blame but himself. There's no room in this sport for drug cheats.
Yeah.
You do the crime, you pay the time. It's really that.
I mean, I'm of the opinion when it's as clear as this. We know Munguia's cheated. There's not even a little bit of me that's going, maybe not, because of the coach or the camp that he's in. And the fact, look, he just went from being coached by Freddie Roach to Reynoso, and the first fight with Reynoso, drugs. Comes back from a loss, drugs. It's just it's such a bad look. Anyway, we'll see what goes on with Munguia, because Munguia is quite a big name. So banning him, they wouldn't want to, but they should.
They have to.
They will.
No, but they have
to. Of course they have to. But we've seen this before. Dillian White didn't get banned. Canelo didn't get banned. Valdez got caught in fight week, and then went ahead and fought that week, and then nothing got said about it ever again. At least with Conor Benn, they called the fight off. And he was probably the only one of the names I've just said that might actually be innocent. That's the crazy part. And then Conor Benn was the one that got the most hate. And he got the most hate because the fight got called off and people were excited for it. That's the mental world that we're living in, where people would actually, when you boil it down, see the fight, drugs or not, because they're invested into the fight, then call it off and actually have a fair situation. Munguia should be banned for at least 2 years. But in all honesty, I think ban him longer, because I think it's so obvious what's going on. And I think go into the camp, and I think ban Eddie Reynoso from being involved in boxing as well. There has to be a point where you go, all right, well, no, you're the coach. 4 of your fighters have failed. You're actually a danger to the sport. That's the whole point of banning these people. It's not, it's not helping them. It's saying you're a danger to the sport. You're now being punished. Eddie Reynoso banned. They won't do it because he's Canelo's coach, and it's not really something I don't think we've ever seen that before. But it should happen. Anyway, look, the main point I wanted to bring it up because it's a big story, and obviously with Canelo fighting soon, I'm glad you mentioned that. Canelo hasn't knocked anyone out since Caleb Plant in 2021, and he's now got the biggest fight. Is it the biggest fight of his career?
I would say, arguably. I mean,
he's had a long career. I mean, Mayweather, Golovkin. It's hard to say.
4 fights stand out for me. Probably this, Floyd.
Yeah,
he was very young.
Yeah,
Golovkin and Terence Crawford. I think those 4 fights are the big fights that stand out for Canelo. So yeah, this is one of his biggest fights for sure.
This is definitely his hardest.
Yeah,
this is the Mayweather fight again. I know Bivol. We didn't look at it like this because we thought, well, that was Canelo at what we kind of thought that was like the peak of Canelo, really. Or maybe not the peak. It depends what you think. But that was Canelo as he'd just gone undisputed, going to 175, fighting Bivol, who at that point, yes, we knew how good Bivol was, but nobody realised that Bivol was as good as he is. Nobody has a pound for pound, dead set, top 5, all the rest of it.
Yeah.
Crawford's going to be tough. I'm just saying, you're right. Canelo needs to be tested a little bit more than the norm. And so does Crawford. I know Crawford's got no history of it, and I'm not even for a minute saying that Crawford would cheat. So I don't think he would.
A big fight like this, they will.
But they should.
3 a.m. The money involved in this 3 a.m. Wake up. Exactly. Get that. Let's get injected.
Yeah.
Well, let's get blood test taken.
Yeah.
Let's get injected.
But they have to because like Crawford is going up divisions to fight, and Canelo's taking a fight with literally one of the most dangerous men in boxing right now. So anyway, look, it's kind of mental what's going on. We're going to talk a little bit about this, but if I'm honest, I think it's a bit of a given how this fight week goes. Yafai returns in what's probably the penultimate fight before he's fighting for a world title.
Long little break for him.
Yeah, homecoming, back in Birmingham. It's a good fight card, actually. It's kind of hard to get too excited about. Yafai is great to watch, but I just think it's going to be Yafai's either going to outwork him for 12 rounds or will finish him off quite quick. There's no real in between. Hard to get excited about. More exciting because we're slowly building to Yafai versus Rodriguez. And I think that is one of the best fights in boxing, or could be.
Yeah.
And both on the same promoter. So it works out. Conor Walker returns. That's going to be a great fight. And Ion Baluta is going to cause more upsets if he beats Peter McGrath. Peter McGrath's got a lot better since he got knocked out. But Ion Baluta is, I think, the definition of a prick. I really like him, but he's a prick because he comes on to the away shows and he just dismantles prospects. That's kind of his thing. So I'm calling him a prick in the nicest way possible. And that's all I've got to say about Fight Week. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm excited for it. Yafai will win. Don't really expect any upsets from it, except McGrail versus Baluta. That's the fight I'm going to be watching sort of closest. What do you make of the whole Fight Week main event, everything?
I think, as I said, the Yafai fight will go as we think it will go, to be honest with you. I don't think they'll put him in too much of a risky fight.
No need.
Fighting for a world title next. Long layoff he's had, but it's back now. But again, it's that thing of like activity. So like he needs activity now, especially if you're fighting for titles, right? So it means you've got to fight more than once a year.
Yeah.
That's really boils down to it. For me personally, with this card, I haven't seen massive promotion for it.
No. I guess it didn't.
That's a bit
maybe need it, but
which to the general fan would suggest that, in terms of bringing people in, maybe this card isn't going to attract as many people as you think. Because unless you know you're from Birmingham or you're a boxing fan, proper boxing fan,
Yeah,
or you're going to the fight, they're the only people that are going to be watching this fight.
Yeah.
And again, I think that just comes down to promotion, to be honest with you. I'm not saying they haven't promoted it. I just don't think they've promoted it maybe as well or pushed it as much as the other cards.
Yeah. It might be that they don't care. Yafai, through his brothers, is already a massive name anyway in Birmingham.
Yeah.
So it might just be that they knew they were going to sell it out. It's not pay-per-view. I'm looking at it's a prospect show. That's kind of what we're looking at. Conor Walker's had a bit of a redemption arc in his career where we're now looking at him and going, if he beats Liam Taylor on Saturday and retains the British title, he could actually push on to European level and maybe be one of these that somehow gets himself a world title shot. And I don't think he'd win. He's not going to win a world title at welterweight, I'll be honest, but he could get there. It's a very similar to Echo Esserman's type situation, except Conor Walker's lost in the past.
Exactly.
But looking at the undercard, we got Peter McGrath and Baluta. That's the fight of the night.
Mm-hmm.
Ibrahim Sullivan versus Brian Phillips. It's a prospect fight. Ibrahim should win. Giorgio Visioli, great fighter in what is his hardest fight of his career, but Giorgio will knock him out in round one. It wouldn't surprise me. Aaron Bowen's back. Obviously had a huge injury. Hamza Udine is back, and Pat Brown is back after he made his debut, which was very successful. So
Big Pat.
And then Tia May Ayton, who's I can't remember how many times national champion, but she's making her debut.
Yeah.
He got beat by Maxie Hughes.
Big
Is
Pat.
that reference to Kambosos Jr.? Sorry. I was going to say Chris Kurz. I'm assuming that is. Because technically, I know what you mean. Kambosos, yeah, he kind of lost to Maxie Hughes, but not officially. Anyway, I'm not fussed by Fight Week, although I will watch it. Although I can't do a stream. I don't know if Paolo is free or not, but I can't. I'm out for a family thing.
We could do a reaction show to it.
We can do a reaction on Sunday.
Yeah, we do a reaction Sunday.
Right, cool, we'll do that. So I will be live Sunday morning for the reaction. And what I'm going to say now, I'm going to just announce it because it's going to relate to something Paolo wanted to talk about as well. There will be a live stream for Jake Paul versus Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. because the undercard is too good to miss. You know it is. I'll watch it. They've got Gilberto Ramirez defending his cruiserweight title.
Yeah, it's a good cause.
Serrano Taylor, Chantel Cameron, Bam, exactly. So, and also, I've not watched Jake Paul in a long time. However, the biggest fight in women's boxing shouldn't be happening. That's what I've titled this because I'm going to have to hand this over to you because I do not agree
with me at all.
I do not agree at all. But I obviously have to let you say your piece.
My thing is, so it actually dawned on me. Let me go back, and I'm just going to go back to when. So I've got Chantel Cameron on LinkedIn. Yeah, LinkedIn, the business platform.
Right, okay. That's kind of cool.
Used the profile a couple of times when I've liked a few of the boxing posts. Yeah. So she checks all the boxing stuff out on my LinkedIn that I post. But
that's cool.
Yeah, she's fighting on July the 11th, funnily enough, on an all-women's card.
Yeah.
And it just dawned on me that I said, why isn't Chantel Cameron fighting Katie Taylor? So instead, we've got the biggest female fight in history, yeah, but it's 2-0 to Katie Taylor. So we're just going to have a third one, yeah. I'm saying, what sounds better, 1-1 or 2-0? Because if Serrano wins this, she still lost more to Katie Taylor than Katie Taylor. So,
but then we get the fourth fight.
It does. All right, then it's 2-2. What, you're going to do 5 fights? Come on, man. Nah.
No.
There's only so many times you can sell this. They cannot fight 5 times. They cannot fight 4 times. They're fighting 3 times. If Serrano wins, it's 2-1. Katie Taylor's going, yeah, that's fine, but I beat you twice. It's all good. I'm just going to go now. Chantel Cameron and Katie Taylor makes more sense because it's unfinished business. It's literally unfinished business. It's 1-1.
Yeah.
I'm sick of them selling this as the biggest fight in female history because you're kind of just playing the same fight back on repeat. And it's going the same way every time. Katie Taylor's winning. From watching Serrano against Katie Taylor twice, I don't think that there's anything she does that will beat Katie Taylor on any night in any city. Yeah, I think Katie Taylor's going to win again, but she's got nothing to lose. Serrano's got not really titles to gain other than that. Bragging rights for one fight. Cool, I got bragging rights for two. Do you get it? Like I'm just bored of this Serrano Taylor thing now, especially when you've got a trilogy that you're 2-0 down on. You're 2-zip down. You're 2-zip down on the trilogy. Like it's not looking good.
The things I see your point. I do, because you are right. It is 2-0, but that last fight could have gone either way. They've both been some of the best women's fights I've ever seen. The thing for me is I'm looking at it going, I don't know, because Chantel Cameron should have had a
should we replay the Champions League final between Inter Milan and PSG?
No.
No, not why is it? Because they won.
But it wasn't that one-sided, and that's
no, but they won.
It's a different sport. Okay, yeah, all right. I don't like that because yes, they won, but that's not the same thing.
Would you replay? Would you put if Usyk fought David? No, do you know what? They're two great fighters. I can't compare to that. Would you replay? Would you want to see Usyk and Joshua 3? I don't.
No, but it's different.
It's not.
Very different. It is different. No, but it's different. The second fight, Joshua improved, but Joshua wasn't close to beating Usyk in that second fight.
And Joshua's
Serrano, you can argue, should have beat Katie Taylor that night.
The first fight she lost, and she moaned about the judge.
First fight she lost. I completely agree. Katie Taylor that's the best Katie Taylor we've seen.
But Serrano moaned about the judges, so they took it to America, and she lost in America.
She lost in America both times. It was New York the first time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Second time was it New York again? No, it was the Netflix AT&T Stadium.
They moaned about because the first fight was on a matchroom card, wasn't it? The Zone.
Yeah, they moaned that it was biased.
Apologies. They moaned about the judges because of the show. So she went over to Jake Paul's show, her show.
Yeah.
She's like a share. She's got shares in it or whatever.
Yeah, most MVP.
She lost that fight on her own show. What does that have to say? All it says to me is you're 2-zip down. This fight means nothing. It means nothing because if Katie Taylor loses, she's beaten Serrano twice and lost once. Yeah, who is like when you're fighting is to see who's the best, right, or who's better of the two. If you lose twice, unfortunately, that other person is better than you. Even 5 margins got up.
I know, but it's the money fight. It's the people know Katie Taylor. They know Amanda Serrano.
Do you know why Jake Paul? Do you know why this fight has happened the third time? Because I think Eddie Hearn's the only person that would do business with Jake Paul. So I don't think that he can make.
Maybe that actually might be true.
He can make the fight of other promoters. Do you get it?
That bit might be true.
So that's why we're seeing Serrano and Taylor free. But I've had enough of it. Like the card looks great, by the way, and of course I will watch that fight because they're two great fighters. But when you're 2-0 down, there's nothing to brag about.
Okay, I can understand that. What happens if Serrano beats Taylor?
She's won. Well done. 2-1.
But from watching Katie Taylor for so long, watching the interviews, Katie Taylor would want to run it back.
I don't think so.
You think she'd retire?
I don't think she needs to fight a third time. I think she'll fight Chantel Cameron. I think Chantel Cameron fight for the title. No,
can't. Is this not undisputed? I don't think. Unless Chantel's at a different weight division. I don't think she can.
Yeah, she's at a different weight division now.
Let's have a look. I don't think so, though. But either way, I'm excited for. I mean, the card itself, they've done a great job with. It's the WBC interim. World Super Light.
If she's awarded that title for whatever reason, Chantel Cameron,
yeah,
Katie Taylor moves there, fights Chantel Cameron in Dublin, Ireland, or no, she's gonna be the B side because she ain't got the title. So you're gonna have to fight where Chantel Cameron fights, but commercially, they could sell out a stadium in Ireland, like make it make sense, money, right?
Mm.
Here's my thing. Going back to the point, Serrano and Katie Taylor shouldn't be fighting. That's what I'm saying. So I just want to see Chantel Cameron and Katie Taylor set one finished business. What I don't want to see is you're 2-0 down. You're gonna fight again. 2-0. You know you play FIFA, Connor.
Yeah.
3-0 is past the pad. 3-0 is past the pad. So what if, just out of curiosity, if we have another, because in Serrano's eyes, the last two fights have been controversial, yeah? In her eyes. If we have another controversial third fight and she loses again, what, do you want to fight her again? And be 4-0 down?
Well, she will want to fight her. We know she'll want to fight her again, but that's not... Look, my point on it is, if you've got two fighters in the same division that are both massive names, they are the biggest names in the division and in women's boxing, really, and they want to fight each other, and we've seen them fight twice already, and the fights have been two of the best fights in women's boxing ever, why not run it back a third time? After number 3, there's no point.
Let me
but I want Katie Taylor to retire after next week. I want her to win the trilogy, and I want her to be done. I've not got an interest in her fighting again. So because she's done everything.
What are you getting out of? Obviously, you're going to watch a great boxing match, I'm sure, because they're two top operators. But what excites you so much about Katie Taylor and Serrano 3?
Because of what we've seen. Because we know they're going to go to war. It's going to be 20 minutes of non-stop, just beating the living hell out of each other. That's what they do. It's very different, but that's what they do. I'm not as fast by the others.
3 times a Katie. Let me play that again. Once, twice, 3 times a Katie. That literally is what I'm saying, Connor.
Right.
Yeah. In the words of Commodores. Once, twice. It was 3 times a lady, but I'm saying once, twice, 3 times a Katie. And that's all she wrote. And then the sign-off fight, I have to see Chantel Cameron. Or Katie Taylor could do what she wants to retire. She doesn't have to fight Chantel Cameron, but for the boxing fraternity, it makes sense. That fight makes more sense than Serrano and Taylor 3. That's my case. Rested.
Fine. I want to see Serrano and Chantel Cameron. I think that'd be a good fight. Anyway, I think that's boxing this week done. There's a lot to talk about. If you are watching, comment. Let us know how Boots is going to do at 154. If Taylor Serrano 3 should be a thing. How long Mungia should be banned. Should Eddie Reynoso be banned? And will Galal Yafai win this weekend? I think that is... and should Kambosos Jr. retire? And should Hitchins fight Haney? That is everything for this week. Subscribe, like. The giveaway is still going once we've hit 500. I believe we had a subscriber from this stream. We did. Thank you very much. Giveaway is still going. Once we hit 500, we'll announce. All you've got to do is subscribe and comment, saying subscribed. Or if you've got a public account, we can use that. We're entering you into a wheel spin. We'll do it live. £50 Amazon gift card. And I believe Paolo might play us out with a song here. That's kind of the feeling I'm getting. Yeah.
Wait for it. Wait for it.
Should maybe do this every time.
That's it's not there. No. Good night, everyone.
Okay.